So here we are with guitarist Tariq Harb, originally from Jordan.
Yes.
But living for the last many years in Canada.
Almost 12 years now.
12 years?
Yeah.
So he's been in Canada for 12 years, but and he's one of the great up-and-coming guitarists. But the interesting thing is he's only been playing for 6 years.
Yes, now almost bordering 7 now.
Okay.
2012.
Almost on your 7th year. Now you're going to have to explain that to everybody, because when they're going to see you play, they're going to think you were playing since the time you were 2, before you could walk, you know? So tell us about, because I know you originally started with violin when you were very young. Tell us the story of your musical origins and how do we get to the guitar?
Yes, okay, well I started with the violin as my parents, they supported me to go to the conservatory and study an instrument. I chose the violin after going to a concert and watching a little, almost like a baby. He was probably 4 or 5.
Okay, all right.
And he was playing the violin. I was saying like, I want that. So my mom naturally took me to the conservatory and just enrolled me in violin lessons.
Okay.
And that was for a year and a half.
So only a year and a half.
Only a year and a half. And then I because I was listening to guitar music at home, like I was listening to rock and so on and so forth. My brother was kind of introducing all this
rock,
music.
no classical at this point.
No classical, nothing.
Okay.
I didn't really even delve into it at all.
Okay.
So my mom got me at Christmas, she got me an electric guitar.
Okay.
So, because I was listening to electric guitar music and then practicing violin, but I wasn't listening to any violin music. So she said, might as well let's get him a guitar, he might get into that. So I started learning blues and rock and a little bit of jazz and everything, not classical, no, not yet. So then I basically stopped playing violin. And went through high school and everything as a guitarist, as a rock guitarist, blues guitarist.
And who were your influences, the rock influences?
Slash was a big one at the beginning.
Slash was a big one.
And then I started getting into Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, Yngwie Malmsteen, all these guys. So I learned a lot of their chops and a lot of their. I had a lot of the music -1 things going on. So I would play all the Satriani over the track. And that was really my band. I had trouble finding bands.
Okay.
Although I had one in high school.
Okay.
And that was really it in terms of
collaborating,
performing and stuff like that. It was more talent shows back home.
Okay.
And then I came to Montreal to study finance, basically.
Okay. So you moved to Canada.
Moved to Canada to study business.
Okay.
And I did so. I finished an undergrad in finance.
Okay.
And took a job in financial advising for a year and a half.
And you worked for the Royal Bank of Canada?
Yeah, a little bit for that, and I trained with the Investors Group as well.
Okay, all right.
And in that period of 6 months, I believe, I decided to buy a violin and kind of explore it again.
Okay.
So I bought my violin, and I was always going back home practicing after 5 to 7 we go out, and then after that I go back home and just practice like mad and try to get everything.
So keep in mind, all of you listening out here, the classical guitar still has not entered. He's out of college. He's got his degree in finance.
Yeah.
He's working in the financial world, and he's now picking up violin again from his old childhood. So
then
what's next?
I looked for a teacher, and I found one. It was very close to Montreal. Actually, it was in the suburbs. I had to leave and get the teaching outside of Montreal for almost 7 months. And during this time, I was kind of picking it up again and really loving it, and falling in love with it, and not falling so much in love with the finance world anymore. So and my teacher was encouraging me to kind of keep at it and hopefully maybe apply at an undergrad degree again in music. So I kind of played in my head, and I took it seriously, and I quit my job, and I applied in a violin performance kind of degree at Concordia University.
Okay.
And that's what I did. Another 3 years of undergrad.
Pure music this time.
Pure music this time, learning everything about music from history to theory to composition even, to electroacoustics.
And your instrument was the violin.
And the instrument was violin. I was playing with the orchestra a lot. I had a string quartet. Playing duets a lot.
Okay.
And while I was there, my composition teacher, he was a guitarist, and he knew I played the guitar. So he asked me, like, did you ever play classical guitar? Did you ever try that? Like, no, never. Like, I never even owned a classical guitar.
Okay.
He's like, you should give it a shot.
Now, how old were you at this point?
Let me see. I finished my finance. I was 22, bordering 23.
Okay.
And a year and a half into
into your studies.
In finance, after a year and a half of working.
Okay.
So I was 25, 26 almost.
And this is your third year now into your...
yeah, my undergrad.
So you would have been 27, 28 maybe?
No, before that. It was like a year and a half into the undergrad when I
okay.
started taking lessons with Rodi Elias, my teacher.
Okay, all right.
So I was probably 25, 26 around that time.
When you kind of discovered the
When I kind of discovered the classical guitar and what I
Now tell us about that. So this is where our story,
this is
where the story begins.
Just the polyphony. Doing polyphony on the guitar was incredible. And I loved it when I had a little bit of that on the violin, because sometimes you find that in violin repertoire, you know, not as consistent as on the guitar. And that separation between the voices was magical. And I said to myself, like, I have to learn how to do that. And I even, because I wasn't proficient at all on the guitar, I said, you know what, I'm going to learn all Bach pieces on my electric guitar, distort it a little bit, and make my own kind of classical music on the electric guitar, finger picking. That didn't work, of course.
Okay. So
I continued both classical guitar lessons and violin lessons at Concordia University. And I graduated there, and that's when I started having the dilemma of what to focus on. Guitar or violin,
But you were sure at this point you wanted to continue your studies, at least to do a master's in something.
In something, oh yes. And no more.
But you weren't sure if it was the violin or the guitar.
I wasn't sure, no.
And the guitar was the new kid on the block still. You'd only been playing for very little,
Yeah, I was playing with a community orchestra in Montreal, and it was just a blast playing the violin in a social aspect like that.
So when was the moment of decision?
I guess it was when the conductor of the Orchestre Symphonique de Lille in Montreal, the community orchestra I played with, he was looking for a guitarist to play the Concerto de Aranjuez.
Aranjuez. Okay.
So I told him I'm a guitarist, you know, why don't we give it a shot? He's like, no, you're not a guitarist, you're a violinist. You know, stop joking around.
Okay.
I told him, listen, do you have auditions coming up? I'll practice. I'll try my best.
Okay.
You know, and we'll do the Aranjuez if you like what you hear.
Okay, and you'll be the soloist on
I'll be the soloist, yeah, and so basically that's what I did. I practiced like mad for, 7 months, and I even contacted Patrick Kearney, teacher in Montreal, and told him, listen, help me out, you know. I really need to learn how to play this piece.
Okay.
He's like, you're crazy. I'm like, yeah, I know.
I've been playing for a year and a half. Trust me, I can do it.
Yeah, classical guitar only, like really focusing on it, you know.
And so you did this concert, you did this performance.
So I did the audition and I got it, and he you know.
And you pulled it off.
I pulled it off. The videos are on YouTube. It's funny.
Unbelievable.
It's funny.
Unbelievable. So you're playing the guitar for like a matter of a couple of...
It was like 2 years, 2.5 years.
And you were already doing the Aranjuez.
Yeah, that's what my friends tell me.
So that must have been the moment when you said, okay, I'm moving forward with guitar, and violin has to kind of relax a little bit, because I had the feeling of playing solo with the I can do it on the violin. I've never done it with the violin, but with the guitar, it seemed like, I don't know, just everything was falling into place. So now tell us then, after you got into the master's program, which would have been the next, the beginning of the next year. Okay. So
it was basically the concert was it sometime in April, something like that.
Okay.
And I entered the master's in September.
Of
2008.
And how long was the master's program?
That was a 2-year program.
2-year program.
At the university.
Okay.
And that's when it was clear that I really want to do something with the guitar.
And what did it take? What happened during that time? Were you practicing 2 hours a day and then doing your studies, or were you practicing 12 hours a day?
I was kind of inventing hours in the day to practice more.
Okay.
There were sometimes, literally, David, when I would be, let's say, playing at night, you know, and the sun would rise. And, hey, you know, it's a new day. You know?
Wow.
I'll continue to go eat, you know, do my things.
Total loss of
sometimes,
time.
you know, your friends get mad at you, you know, sometimes.
Okay, all right.
But they all understand, obviously, but it's just, you're just so focused that sometimes you forget to eat. You forget to kind of like sleep properly, you know.
Right.
Just focus.
But you got it.
It's a little bit obsessive.
Yeah,
it was a little
of course,
bit obsessive. But I had a vision.
And you covered pretty much the whole kind of ground base. You did
I did all the studies,
the repertoire, everything.
All that. I just made sure that I know it. So
your repertoire was filled out. You did everything.
Yeah, I tried to do as much as I could. You know? Even I didn't perform most of it really.
Right.
And I did record most of it. It's just I made sure that I memorized it.
Okay.
And I knew it by heart, and I could play it to my friends, and I just made sure that, you know, I can kind of put a stamp on some of these pieces at least before moving forward. You know? I didn't just look at the first line, second line.
Okay.
Because I believe that if you want to really, you learn only when you really complete a job, you know, and that was kind of like my motto back then. So every piece need to be completed, memorized, fingered the best way possible, all that, you know. So it was a lot of work.
It wasn't just learning, okay, I learned this one, I can learn 5 more pieces today. You learn them all.
No, I have to learn it
all
well
at the time, at
the ability that I have at the moment.
It takes a lot of time. You know? So you condensed what most people takes them 20 years into probably 2 years.
Yeah, now I sometimes I have some of those old recordings that I did, you know, at home with my laptop. You know, I laugh at myself, you know, but it's with the abilities that I had back then, and I made the most out of it. And I think that was the only way for me to also teach myself.
Okay.
You know, so listening to myself always, recording myself always, video recordings. And
really?
I think I learned. I think
being
that was really
being the audience member as
being
well as
the audience,
performer.
and I kind of, from the violin world, I know kind of what sounds good, and I know what I like.
Right. Okay.
You know, in terms of just technical stuff, you know. Sure. Yeah, handling a phrase, so on and so forth.
So all this really musical, this musical growth, this kind of period, this was a 2-year period, right?
Mostly in the masters, yeah. Of course, before that as well, in the year and a half or 2 years. In
but the master's program itself. So then, when you finished that, when did you start doing competitions? And tell us about that. How many competitions have you done?
I've done 2.
2 competitions, and how did you do in those 2 competitions?
I was lucky. I got first in both.
First in both. Wow.
Very lucky. I was very lucky.
And the first was the Montreal.
The first was the Montreal. Yeah.
Okay.
Montreal,
you won first prize there.
2011.
Wow,
yeah, which was last year.
The story gets more amazing as we go along. And the second one, this is how I know you, because your name came along when we started seeing videos for this Barrios, this World Wide Web competition, which became kind of a real competition at the end. The finals were held in Paraguay.
Yes.
So. You made it through all the layers of that, submitting your videos. Yeah,
I was following that in 2009 when it was happening, and I met this guitarist who told me about this competition. I met him in the Montreal competition, and he told me, you should just do these videos, man. Just upload them. You're not going to lose anything. You know, you learn 2 pieces, memorize them. You can include them in your program. Upload them and see what happens, and that's exactly what I did. And
you kept making it to the next stage, and
kept making the next stage, just as preliminary round, and then a semi-final round, and then the finals. If you make it, they send you out there, which was incredible.
Wow!
And the amount of trust between players and the organization was just fantastic. It went really well.
But I understand that in Paraguay you won. There was a 2-way tie for first prize.
Yes, me and Chen Chuan, the Chinese guy. Yes.
But you kind of got something a little extra there because you got the Audience Choice Award too.
Yes,
there was only one of those.
That was a surprise because they, you know, in Paraguay, everyone knows this music, and it's arranged in many different mediums. Like you hear the Paraguayan dances of barrios played by orchestras, you know, and arranged for, let's say, music schools to play them on brass, or you know, on a bunch of flutes, or in a string orchestra, you know. So this music is very much ingrained in the tradition. Everyone knows it. So when you get an audience prize from there, audience that really have lived,
that means
with this,
you're passing the genuine test.
In a way, I feel like those people, they danced to this music when they were kids. You know, they really know it more than I do. They know it more than I do, definitely. You know? So having that kind of, it's also like a. It's a good feeling. Yeah, it was.
Wow, fantastic. Well, you got a couple competitions behind you, and there are many more to come. I know there's one coming up here. Hopefully, you're going to be doing in New York.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing in Buffalo. Buffalo, New York.
This is the concertos.
Yeah, the concerto. Hopefully.
Okay, so we'll announce that as the results come in. Yeah, but I have a good feeling about it. So anyway, where does that leave you now? You've moved now from Montreal to Toronto.
Yeah.
And you're doing a doctorate.
I'm doing my doctorate now,
essentially. Yes. Tell us about that.
So basically, while doing my master's, I met Dr. Jeffrey McFadden in Italy, in Cervo, with the festival that's run there by Solo Duo. And I met him there, and I like the way he teaches and everything. So I aim to kind of apply there, among other schools, but I was set on Toronto. You know, I wanted to go there, and it worked out. So I'm in 2 years into my doctoral program now, and I have 2 more years left. So
and tell us about what your thesis is. So in addition to performing and kind of,
in addition to doing all your recitals,
doing your more and more repertoire and recitals, and kind of keeping that going, what else? What is your thesis?
I'm interested in transcriptions. So I'm doing a big transcription project.
Okay.
And being like in love with Benjamin Britten's Nocturnal and his music in general, I thought of to explore his cello suites that he wrote for Mstislav Rostropovich.
Okay.
And they're so neo-Bachian in a way. They have alamans, they have fugues, they have chorans, all atonal, of course. Beautiful music,
Okay.
7 to 9 movements each. You
Wow.
know? Yes.
So you're not only transcribing these, but these are also part of your thesis.
This is part of my thesis, yeah. So
Okay.
the whole thesis goes with it, a research paper, basically. You know,
Interesting.
about all the methods that have been used to transcribe music. So I'm taking a lot of Bach's own model of transcribing his own music.
And
to other
speaking of
instruments.
transcriptions, you told me something a couple days ago, and that was that in order for you to feel like a transcription really works, the goal should be to make it even better than the original.
That's really
So
my goal.
just maybe we can end with your reflections on that, because this is sort of what you're doing at the moment. So tell us as much as you can about that idea.
Well, normally you can take, when you transcribe music, you're taking it from one form of expression or one medium of expression to another medium of expression. So it can be from let's say, smaller to a larger medium, like let's say from violin to harpsichord. Or you can go the opposite, let's say from piano to guitar, so larger to smaller. Usually when you go from larger to smaller, you have to kind of skim
You
the
lose
music a
things.
little bit.
So if you try to do
So you're
pictures,
taking out notes,
pictures at an exhibition on a guitar,
pictures, exactly.
you have to
So
reduce.
Of course, you have to reduce for it to be idiomatic to the instrument, to the receiving instrument. That's very important, just for the players to enjoy it.
So your approach here is to do the reverse: is to take something written for an instrument that is very full in and of itself, but
Yes.
something that can be amplified into a larger
enhanced,
kind of instrument.
yeah,
Okay.
and kind of illuminate the counterpoint, if you may.
Okay.
That we see in a lot of Bach's own transcriptions.
Okay.
So as far as I know, he never went from, let's say, harpsichord to violin.
So he never went from larger to
to
smaller.
smaller medium
No.
of
As far as you
expression.
know,
No,
right?
yeah, as far as
Okay.
I know, he always went from a smaller instrument to a larger.
Okay. Very
medium
interesting. I
expression.
did not know
And
that.
you can see that it almost sounds that the music was originally conceived for that receiving instrument, because he adds all these lines and all these ornaments that are so possible on that instrument.
Right.
And sometimes you feel that it's much more accommodating an instrument to him, that he's much more used to it, so he can do much more with it.
Right.
But that's beside the point. Anyways, you can tell that the music is being enlarged or illuminated or expanded using the more able form of expression.
Right. Sure.
So taking it from, let's say, a monophonic instrument to a polyphonic
Sure.
would be, in my case.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so
I
you're
do think for this.
And so you're gonna, as far as your approach to the to what you're doing with Benjamin Britten, it's almost the approach Bach may have taken if he were doing the same thing.
Absolutely,
So-
yes, from cello suites. Let's say to lute.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
Okay.
Actually, and he did some of the violin sonatas and partitas to
Right.
harpsichord
Right.
as well. So, and
Very
some of them went even to become a cantata, like the BWV.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So even larger than the
Uh-huh.
the lute or the harpsichord. So
Fantastic.
yeah, that's basically my main.
Well, you got a lot ahead of you, and it's amazing what you've got behind you, because
you.
it all takes place in only 6 going on 7 years,
Going on 7 years.
from your guitar point of view, which is absolutely amazing. And I think so. It's very hard for me to say welcome to the guitar when you've achieved so much already.
There's still
6
so
or
much
7
to
years. If at the rate you're going, you're
I-
gonna. We expect to see you go very, very far.
Thank you.
So anyway,
appreciate it.
thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thanks for
all right.
having me.
Thanks a lot, Bobby.
Appreciate it.